Okay, so again, it's been a couple of days. Again, I've been feeling kind of down on myself, so again, I haven't been really doing anything useful or productive. But anyway, focusing in on gaming. I was thinking about this with regards to the idea of charges. One of the things I think is a challenge when it comes to role-playing games is that they don't have a very clear period of time in which you're supposed to use something. What I mean by that is, you can hint from a game master's perspective that there's an important fight coming up, like, oh, it's the big boss, or you've got the lieutenants or something like that. You know, you can kind of hint at climax points. But it's difficult to know when you should use the resources that are given to you. Now, some might say, well, we'll just use them all the time. But I don't think that's necessarily the case for most players. My experience is that players tend to hoard for a rainy day. But the rainy day that they expect never comes. It's always a drizzle, so they think, you know what, this isn't really necessary for me to use this. And so, and the counter to that, of course, is that game masters will then hose them because they said, well, look, you had all these resources and you didn't use them. You should have used them, and I'm hosing you because you're not using the resources that you should have. Like, they're not hosing them intentionally. They're expecting them to use the resources they've given them or they've provided to them. But I think this extends beyond role-playing games in general. I think of Mass Effect 2, for instance. It had a mechanism for reviving and healing your party members called Metagel. And I always found it strange that in Mass Effect 2, you didn't get a recharge of all of your Metagel as soon as you came back to the ship. The only place you could get Metagel was from going down to a planet and essentially stealing it from medical cabinets. To me, that rang a little strange. That you had this resource that your corporation that's absolutely huge and massive and can afford this giant ship can't buy you medicine. Yeah, I know it's a mechanic. So why not make it so that you have enough Metagel to revive 2 of your companions, and that recharges at the beginning of every mission. And you may be only able to carry up to 2 at a time. So, you may have a recharge of 1 before you hit a boss. So in case you happen to have used 1 prior to a major encounter, then you have both available for that encounter. So the designers can build into it the expectation that the players will have the access to and be able to use Metagel on a regular basis. The same thing with energy charges for their heavy weapons. I hardly ever used my heavy weapon as a result because I was always afraid that, well, what if the next encounter is really hard and I need to use this? It was kind of like a get-out-of-jail-free card. And I think this extends beyond just that. I mean, it's one of those, if it has limited uses, it tends not to be used as much. Whereas if it has unlimited uses, or it recharges, like, for instance, a mage's spells recharge the next day, the mage has no issue in casting his spells. Yes, they may be economical and use those spells during the course of the day wisely, but they'll know that, if I run out of spells, I can always get new spells tomorrow. That won't be a problem. I just won't have them today to counter today's problems. So why not have, like, wands, for instance, have, like, 5 charges, but it recharges every day. So you can use them. Like, the idea is it's a cost balance. It's a cost balance issue. You have to make it cheap to use, but not so cheap that it's everywhere. Like, you can't have, for instance, a 5 charge wand that recharges every combat. That's pointless. Anyway, coming up on 5 minutes, or 4.5 minutes or whatever. So yeah, charges. I think that there needs to be a lot more thought put into how games are balanced with limited use items